G'day and welcome to the Hunting Connection podcast. My name is Zach Williams and I am your host. Here we'll connect you with hunters, fishers and outdoor enthusiasts from around the globe. This podcast will share hunting and fishing stories including past experiences and tackle the tough hunting stereotypes our community faces. We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast. G'day and welcome to another episode of Hunting Connection podcast. On today's episode, I have Marcus from Ozcamper / Bush Culture on TikTok, Instagram and Facebook. How you going?
G'day, Zach. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Thank you so much for having me on, Legend. This is awesome.
Nah, it's all good. I love the positive messages you send through TikTok about the outdoor community. As we discussed before the podcast started, you're not a hunter, you haven't done it, you're interested in it, but you're big into your full driving and your camping.
Absolutely love my four-wheel driving. That is my passion. If I anytime I've got free time, I'm straight out into the bush, four-wheel driving, breaking the car a little bit, racking up the bills on it, or just out camping with some mates around a campfire. We do a lot of fishing as well. I'm pretty big into shark fishing.
Yeah, beautiful.
So we go offshore, do a fair bit of shark fishing. But I'll be honest, if it's got to do with the great outdoors, I'm invested in it. And hunting has just always been that niche for me that I'm like, I want to do this. I just don't have that jumping point. I don't have that person to talk to. I don't have, that group of friends that go hunting. So that's one of those areas that it is on the list. It's just taken a bit longer than maybe some other areas to jump into.
Well, yeah, full driving, fishing, it's an expensive hobby. So throwing hunting in on top of that, it makes it a very, very expensive hobby. But, as we'll talk about, you're in the heart of Victoria there. So through this podcast, hopefully we can get you out in the bush chasing deer, mate.
Yeah, no, that's we'll make that our project. We'll give ourselves a 12-month window and we'll see what happens.
I'm sure it won't take that long. We have some awesome listeners on this podcast, always helping to get new people outdoors and, even people that have been in it, trading hunts. There's been hunts traded from, America to Australia and New Zealand to Denmark and all sorts of stuff. So we'll definitely get you out there, mate.
Nah, unreal. I'll wait for you to book that trip in for me and you to head out. You can take me on my first hunt. Sounds great.
Sounds good to me, man. So, as I mentioned, you're in Victoria. Whereabouts in Victoria are you from?
So, I grew up in a small town called Gisborne, which is smack bang in the middle of the Macedon Ranges. A lot of people, if you're not from Victoria, you'll have no idea where I'm talking about. No. You might know towns like Sunbury, maybe. That's sort of pushing out into a bit more rural areas, but probably about an hour from the CBD of Melbourne. So heading towards Ballarat area.
Yeah, beautiful.
So all we had to do out Gisborne way was go camping. It was a very small country town where I grew up.
No doubt I passed through it going hunting, if it's out that way, I've surely driven through it, probably, blinked and missed it.
100% you would have. It's one straight in, one straight out.
That's awesome.
You can go straight through the town nice and easy.
So what do you do for work?
So for work, originally I was a plumber by trade. So yep. I've been a plumber for 10 years. At the moment, I do work for the government. That's probably as far, sadly, as my job title can go.
No, that's all right. That's fine.
But yeah, no, it is a government job. Yeah, and then in my spare time, go on.
Yeah. I was just saying, yeah, beautiful, man.
Yeah. And then in my spare time, I'm currently in recruitment for the CFA as well. So that'll be a nice, fun challenge for me.
Yeah, nice, awesome. And you mentioned that all there was to do in that area was head out bush. How did you get into going full driving and camping?
Jeez, I want to say the first time I went camping, I would have been maybe 4 or 5, just jumping in the back of me mate's dad's car, 4-wheel driving straight out to the bush. For me, it probably felt like we were going hours away on this incredible trip when we drove 10 minutes up the road just to some trees and set up a $10 tent. But ever since then, I was like, this is insane. I love it out here. And then, as we started to grow older, we had nothing in town. So when we sort of started getting to 14, 15, all we had was our bikes. We'd just jump on the bikes and huck it through the bush all the time. And it was sort of there. It was my childhood, really. I've been into it for as long as I can remember, the great outdoors, and it's just something that's never left me.
That's amazing, man. So your parents and grandparents weren't into heading out bush? First
Not
generation?
overly, no. So my old man, he's really big into the horse scene, into horse racing, horse breeding. So his passion sort of took him out to a lot of stud farms and everything there. He's quite a big horse breeder in Victoria. So a lot of their time was wrapped up in that. I do know that my grandparents, they were hunters, campers, fishermen, all of that. But I think they passed when I was about 2. So we never had that opportunity
Yeah.
to get out there. But I think that is in the bloodline where I get it from.
Yeah, beautiful. Just skipped a generation there, and
That's exactly it. It skipped it, and now they're stuck with me.
how good, how good. What was your first 4-wheel drive getting into it?
So my first vehicle, I actually would go out 4-wheel driving in, which is going to sound so stupid to so many people, but it was a Toyota RAV4, and this thing was beat to hell. I'm almost certain, no, I am certain it was a 4x2, but we're just like, this can do it. This is a RAV4. This thing is power. And we would take that thing absolutely everywhere,
That's great.
and me and my mates, we'd be going out in Ford Falcon, XR6 sedans, camping, like getting these cars into the dumbest places you could imagine, because we didn't have grown up money. So we're like, all right, these are cheap cars. We'll jump in these,
Yep.
and we would get them everywhere. You would just, there'd be some real 4-wheel drives punching through and just see this little Ford sedan in the middle of the bush, like, how did it just get here, boys? We're like, oh, we don't know. If we can get back out, we're good. We're laughing. And
Yeah,
then after that, I moved into a Holden Rodeo. That was actually such a reliable little rig, that thing. That was awesome. No mods on it or anything like that, just a stock standard.
the old slow
And
day.
again, though, yeah. That's it. But it had a tray, and I'm like, this is such an upgrade. Like, sweet, boys, everything in here. After that, I went to a Navara, and now I'm currently building the Triton, which, despite what everyone says, that thing is a little reliable go-getter.
That's good, man. That's good. Yeah, you saying, getting the old Falcon out there. I had I started off with an old school Nissan Navara, old school
Yeah.
80s. Bought it for $1,200 off the corner in my hometown. Like I grew up in a town of, I think it's like 300 people, so real small town. So I bought that. 3 of the doors were rusted shut. So I bought 4 new doors from a wrecker for that. So it was like burgundy over silver body, silver over burgundy doors. It had a tray on it. I swapped that out for a tub eventually, so it had a bright red tub on it. Just this absolute
Just this
clapper.
absolute eyesore.
And then from when I blew that up out planting in the mud, went from there to a Daewoo Lanos, and I got that into some pretty crazy places with the swag. Had a bunch of dead goats and deer in the back of that, and then moved from that to a BF Falcon. Same deal. Would load up with 5 of us in it with swags and tents and eskies, and go into the stupidest spots with it.
And it's funny. It's so funny you say that, because I feel like so many of us are like, when I ask the question, where'd you start camping in? People are always like, oh, Ford Falcon. I'm like, I don't know what it is about these Falcons. And even today, I'll see the fresh 18-year-olds out there in the Ford Falcon as well, just smack bang in the bush. And I'm like, get it, guys. This is unreal.
No, that's great. Yeah, it's funny how it goes. I'd be following my mate in his patrol in my little Lanos. Just absolutely sending it as hard as I could.
It's so funny, because it's like that vehicle, though, that you're talking about, like the Daewoo shouldn't be doing what you're doing in it. but it didn't stop you.
Nah.
And that's so cool, like you're just like, this is what I've got and I'm getting out there.
Oh, that's it, man. Rocking up to the pub after going hunting and, having deer antlers hanging out the back of the Falcon, because I got deer in the boot or goats in the boot. Use what
exactly.
you have.
It's crazy because it's like, different niches of content, but the message is the exact same. And you're a shining example of it. Like, it doesn't matter what you've got. That's not an excuse to not get out there. And I suppose I can put that on myself with hunting as well. I haven't got anything, and you were saying to me before the podcast, mate, just get out there, get into it. You don't need to know what you're doing. Just get out there. Speak to people, teach yourself, and you'll be all right.
Go get your firearms license. Once this podcast finish, go apply. The quicker you get that, the better it is for you. But I use full driving as a tool to get myself into places. I understand that like the bush culture brand is getting out there, and like full driving camping, but all of these for me is a tool and just a part of going hunting and fishing. So you bring it all on board, where yourself and a lot of your followers, like the full driving and the camping side of it is what the hunting and the fishing side of it is for me. So it's
exactly.
Great to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly, and that's where it's. I think we could probably switch roles, and then for me, I'd go out on 4-wheel driving trips, but I'd take the hunting gear, and between destinations, I go, right, I'm going to hunt here for two nights, and we'll see how we go, and then we got food for the rest of the trip.
That's it, man. It's and that's what it is. You pull up into camp. I'm not sure how you see many deer when you're going out, like because you're not looking for deer, but are you coming across them?
So with all the 4-wheel driving I've done, and I'll just primarily pick the high country here because I know that is one of the big spots for deer hunters in Victoria. I've seen 2.
Yeah, nice.
And I'm not looking for them though. And again, like I say, I'm not a hunter, so I don't know, but I'm assuming that the sound and the vibrations of these 4-wheel drives absolutely hucking it. We're not going to be seeing them. They're probably hearing us going, yeah, we're going in the opposite direction. Stealth isn't really our strong suit.
You'd be surprised. They're often just on the side of the track. When I haven't done heaps in Victoria. Like I said, at the start of the year, I went over Mansfield Way. I've done a little bit in Gippsland, South Gippsland and East Gippsland. And just the amount of deer we've seen on the roads on those trips, driving down the road at night or, dusk and dawn, and deer are running out in front of you, driving these dirt roads and deer are cutting across in front of you. So it blows me. I'm not sure if it's just because I'm paying more attention and looking for these animals, and that I'm seeing them, or, that's why I was curious to ask how many you've seen when you've been out.
Yeah, no. So high country. I've had two encounters with deer where I've clearly spotted them. I've seen a place out hometown, and that's like you just said, just off to the side of the roads. There's deer just sitting there. And I don't know if this is true, but all the old locals say that we had a deer farm that when the fires came through, they cut them loose and they've all bred out there. But we see a hell of a lot of deer out in Macedon Ranges, way surprisingly.
Yeah, beautiful. Look, it's honestly a very, very common story from, the bottom of South Australia all the way up to the top of Queensland that, fires and the deer fences have gone down, a storm and the deer fences have gone down. The farmer's gone broke and the deer fences have gone down, He's ran out of money and just gone and cut the fences and let them all loose. It's a very, very common story when it comes to deer in Australia.
Yeah, it just gets passed on from town to town. So they're like, it must have been what happened here too, guys.
Yeah, then they all meet, Yeah. Do you know what deer species you're seeing, or you describe what they look like?
I'd love to say that they are sambar, but you're asking the wrong guy.
No, it's all a part of it, The sambar will be the big brown ones, real thick coats. Well, thick-looking coats, They're quite ruggedy, quite big, and then fallow are the little spotty ones. They come in different colours, but they're, little petite-looking Bambi-looking deers.
So can you shoot when you're hunting? I know that you've got a season for sambar. Fallow, is that no go? That's no game?
No, so as far as I'm aware, the only deer species in Victoria that has a season for general hunting is the hog deer down Gippsland Way. Samba don't have a season anymore. I think they used to. I'll probably be corrected, but the hound hunters, they have a season that they have to follow by. The Alpine National Park, they have a season when you can and can't hunt through there. That's not for the deer. That's just when you can hunt through there. The rest of the species are fair game.
I'd love to ask you a question. I don't want to go too far off topic with you, but just while we're talking about seasonal hunting and everything, I'd love to get your thoughts, and you've probably said this multiple times on the podcast, so apologies if you have.
That's fine. Shoot.
From the hunting community, what are your thoughts on how much 1080 baiting is happening in the Victorian high country and probably other areas as well at the moment?
Personally, I fucking hate it. Hate 1080. I hate the helicopter culling that's going on in all across Australia. It's not just like the high country, Victoria, that's getting a lot. New South Wales is getting a lot of helicopter culling. South Australia have gone from more baiting to helicopter culling, which is just like, in my personal opinion, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. There is a time and place for it. It needs to be done. But, if they open up more of these areas for people to go hunting in, it wouldn't have to be so reliant on the government to do.
Yeah, because I've mentioned a few videos of mine, 1080 baiting, but funny enough, I don't really speak to enough of the hunting community about it, but I always do use the hunting community sort of in my videos to push, I hate this stuff. And I always say it takes away from hunters, which this is the first time I've actually had the opportunity to ask about it from you. So I'm just like, I'm going to throw them in here because I feel like they're all on the same page. But I've had mates that have lost their dogs up in the high country because they've gotten 1080 bait.
Yep.
And mate, there are signs everywhere throughout that bushland saying that they 1080 bait drop there. And it is so disappointing. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's horrible stuff, depends who you speak to. There's in New Zealand, baiting is a career. You can go through the New Zealand Alps and you bait for stoats and ferrets and possums and rats and mice all through there. So they use a lot of 1080, but they also helicopter drop a lot of 1080. So, downstream, it's supposedly supposed to, become non-lethal after it gets wet and all of that. But people find it in trout streams with fish floating all around it and, animals with stomachs.
Literally, yeah.
Deer dying from it. And there's all sorts of stories you hear. Some people are really for it. So I can only speak for myself in the hunting community because there's, the hunting community has people that come in from all aspects. People come in for the meat aspect, for the quote unquote trophy hunting aspect of it, for the pest control aspect of it. So there's all these people, and then there's people like me. Without the meat side of it, that's a massive thing for me. But as you can see behind me, I've got antlers, I've got horns, I've got.
You got some trophies. You've got some trophies, yeah.
I like the antlers. I love the horns. They all tell stories. People come over, they pick them up, and I can tell them. That was found in New Zealand. That was shot in America. That was shot in Texas. That was shot in Mexico. So they all come with stories, and then you get the photos out. So trophy hunting is a huge aspect for me. It's a shitty word. Lots of people hate it because it doesn't.
I was about to ask that as soon as you say trophy hunting. Do people sort of lift an eyebrow at you, and they get a bit annoyed when they hear that? If it's not for meat, if it's not for pest control, do you find that trophy hunting sort of gets frowned upon a bit more?
It does. It's got a very toxic trait through the African side of stuff, But when it comes down to economics of trophy hunting in general is very, very good. because, you know, the bigger the animal is, the older that animal is, the more of its genes it's passed through breeding seasons. You know, a lot of these African animals, once they hit a certain age, they can't breed anymore. So they only stop that herd from getting bigger. So if you take out those older males, the younger males move in, therefore you make more animals rather than keeping the old. You know, it works with elephants, rhinos, giraffes, lions. You know, all of these animals will stop the females from breeding and reproducing more, and if they do reproduce and they know it's not theirs, they'll kill those young, so the population actually gets smaller without trophy hunting. The better managed trophy hunting herds are, the bigger the population gets. So it's a huge.
Jeez,
crazy.
the more you know. Yeah, that's incredible.
And yeah, that's a huge rabbit hole. But yeah, America has their own trophy hunting side of things. You know, the bigger the animal is, the healthier the population is. You know, here is like a mixture of pest control because all the species we hunt introduced. Then it's like pest control, meat, you know, chasing these big animals. Like, for me, I don't want deer wiped off the landscape, but I know that they have an environmental impact as well, so I do want to keep the populations down. But I don't want governments out there helicopter culling and leaving these animals to rot, because then you've got all this meat on the ground, and the wild dog populations, the feral cat populations are increasing because there's all this meat getting left on the ground, you know?
Yeah, no, literally.
It's a huge
It's
rabbit
interesting.
hole.
yeah. I was gonna. After this, I'll probably jump on YouTube tonight and be like, all right, let's have a bit of a deep dive here.
Oh, it's nuts, man. Like, you look at the wild dog populations in Vic, where they do lots of helicopter culling. The wild dog populations are just skyrocketing.
It's enormous. They're everywhere out here. They're everywhere.
Have you had many run-ins? I personally haven't seen any. I haven't even heard them howl yet. But, like, you know, for me, it sounds bad, but I want to hunt everything that's huntable in Australia.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of just like there's a list of what you can hunt in Australia. Wild dogs are on it. I would love to be able to hunt a wild dog, you know, especially, you know, with a rifle. Cool, you know, tick it off the bucket list. Hunting one with a bow would be fucking epic. Like, that's just like calling it in, you know. That's the one of the closest things we have in Australia to actual dangerous game, apart from like water buffalo, scrub bulls, and those real big animals.
Yeah, definitely. No, I've heard quite a few wild dogs. Again, up in the Vic High Country, I spend a lot of time up there. For me, that's sort of the mecca of four-wheel driving in this state. So I'm up there as much as possible, even for day trips. You know, I'll drive out 3 hours just to get up there for a day trip, do a snow run, jump back in the car, and you know, get home at 1-2 in the morning. But I'm
Amazing.
like, that run was epic. Like, you know, I'm more than happy to do that. And you hear wild dogs out there quite a lot. You'll see them pumping around the tracks every now and again as well. And you can pick it right away that it's not a domesticated dog. Like, when you see them, you're like, oh, geez. They're out there. You get a lot of them out there, and I'm pretty certain as well you get some pretty big cats out there now too.
Yeah, that's cool. Speaking of big cats, you know, you hear these stories of, you know, panthers, escapees, stuff. You know, your channel on TikTok has some cool stories. You know, you went down a button man rabbit hole there for a minute. You've gone down, you know, ghost stories. You know, I'm sure if you haven't, you've gone down like UFO stories and all sorts of things. You know, you get people to send in all different stories, and you chat about, you know, the messages that you get, and you put it into a story for your channel. You know,
literally, yeah, it's crazy. It's cool that you've listened to some of them, but it was just so crazy how it happened, because, you know, we were told about the button man years and years ago, you know, and that story about the hunter asleep in his swag, and, you know, he had his camera. We've all heard it. Everyone in the great outdoors has heard it.
See, I heard it through your channel.
So, really? Okay.
And then
maybe it's a Victorian thing.
Yeah, look, I heard of the button man, you know, with that whole murder scenario that you've been covering as well. You know, that the old camper and the pilot who's the hunter. You know, so, you know, I knew of the Button Man through, people talking about him, but I didn't know too much about him. And then, watching your videos talking about him and the messages, that have been sent in, and then you had family or family friends message you and give you a little bit of a backstory of him too. And yeah, absolutely crazy.
The amount of people that reached out, the amount of people that actually know him, and they've sent me photos, because I've been sent photos of him, and I'll never release them primarily, and I've been given permission to, but I'm like, nah, I'm not taking away from this awesome story. I'm not showing that on my socials for clicks. So when I've shown photos, I've always just completely covered his face off, and I'm like, you're not seeing it. If he picks your camp to come through, you'll see him, and you'll know. You see him, you'll know. But I sat back and I'm like, I wonder if someone there's people out there that haven't heard this story. And it went super viral, and I was like, oh shit. And I remember waking up the next morning and I had 200 message requests, and people were like, dude, I've got this story. And that's I'm like, killer. Oh shit. All right. And I posted a few people's stories, and it sort of just blew up into this thing of everyone sending in, it went from camping scary stories, because we've all got them, scary stories around the campfire. You sort of grow up on that, don't you, when you're younger? And it just blew up into this thing where people are like, dude, I've got this ghost story. It's a man, there's demons in my house. And I'm like, oh, all right. My page, I'm Ozcamper, so I try to keep it as much to do with the outdoors as possible.
Man.
Hey, the Pilliga, it's a haunted stretch of highway where a lot of people go camping and hunting. Have you heard of the Pilliga Princess? I try to keep it outdoorsy, but every now and again there's a story that'll catch my eye, and I'm like, what is this?
It's funny. I digress. Like I said, I've watched a bunch. I haven't watched all your videos, but I've watched, a good chunk of them, and, finding out that you're a bit of a supernatural nerd too, which made me laugh, because, I've watched it all too fucking hundreds of times. So watching you do all the ghost stuff, and, the Pilliga Princess and stuff like that. It's the women in white and all the shit that they chased in the original season. So it's pretty funny, you got the Button Man, which is very similar to some of the shit that they chased, and so it's funny watching all of those connections, and you can see that your passion from watching Supernatural of all things transfers into the Button Man and all these haunted stories and demons and all of that, which is pretty funny. Which is, I think this is the first time Supernatural's been brought up on a hunting podcast that's not related to ghost hunting.
I was going to say, how good. It's just, you're the first person that's ever actually noticed that, because when I'm making these videos, it is honestly on the forefront of my mind, that show, and I'm thinking back to all the old episodes. And it's funny that you say you've watched it, because when people will see my videos, I take a lot of photos from the show.
Yeah.
And if you haven't watched it, people aren't picking that, but I'm like, oh, well, the Pilliga Princess, that's this episode of the show, 100%. That's our Australian version. That's so funny that you've actually noticed that.
Yeah. Like I said, I fucking watched, as soon as it came out when I was it would have been year 7 it came out. I fucking, watched it all through, and then, all the box series, and then, with it on all the streaming services. So, get bored and start rewatching, The Journey of Sam and Dean.
Exactly. I tend to start, and then I'll get to season 5, and I'm like, all right, I'll start it again in another 2 years, and I'll go back to season 1 and watch 1 through to 5, and I'm like, great show.
Yeah, the golden years of it, that's for sure.
The golden years of it, 100%. I'm like, that's so good.
What's some of the craziest stories you've been told? Whether it's hauntings or freaking weird shit that's happened, alien encounters.
I haven't had many alien encounter ones. And I remember I want someone. If someone's listening to this and you've got it, send it through to me, because you might know about this. You probably would have heard about it. That story of the bloke from America that said he was abducted by aliens. He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast before. I watched that podcast about 2 weeks ago. And the whole, unraveling of it. Yeah, go on.
Is that the one that was getting picked on by some guys and then got abducted and then showed up on the highway like 3-4 days later?
No, it was.
There's a few.
What happened was there were loggers.
Yeah, that's the
these
guy.
these
So
guys were loggers out in the bush, and they were driving back from work one night, and they spotted something bright, in the sky. They made a movie about it called Burning in the Sky. So it's based on this fella, and I'm hanging for someone in Australia to actually send me some UFO stories. I've actually been doing my own research of some local Aussie stories to sort of start the conversation on my page. So I'm like, I'll bring a video out where, we'll find the most famous Aussie one, and then that might get the conversation. But I haven't had any UFO ones. I've had a lot of encounters with just fucking scary bushmen out there in the scrubs, like, just people that are up to no good out there. And it's hard because I don't want to spread too much fear because I'm so big on, guys, the outdoors is the best. And then in my next video, I'm like, have you heard this fucking scary story? And people are like, what are you trying to do? Like, do you want us out there or not?
Oh man, that's it though. Camping is like, at that, after you've eaten, you're having a few drinks around the fire, and you start, this happened to a friend of mine, and you start talking shit about, some story that's been passed through every single friend group through, Australia, and then, something else gets added onto it, you've got that. This is the first time on this podcast that we've talked about aliens and freaking ghosts and that. So it's cool that it's gone down this digression.
I'm glad to bring a little bit of a different flavor in. It's like, all right, well, he's not much of a hunter, but we can talk about some weird, scary shit with him.
When he gets the old salt ring around the fire because something's gone bump in the night.
I mean business. But then as well, like you hear about the Aboriginal stories of the Yowies and everything like that. I'd love to believe it, but you'd think that, like, especially hunters, yous are out there and yous are stalking and yous are hunting things. Surely someone would have seen one or bagged one if they were out there.
Look, the big cat stories, personally, I believe I seen one with one of my mates here in the Adelaide Hills. Chatting to a fella in the American hunting industry, Clay Newcomb. He has a podcast called Bear Grease Podcast, and he did a series on big cats in America, so panthers in America. And hearing his stories about these big black cats in America, they're almost identical to the same origin stories as of them here in Australia. So a circus train crashed and the big cats got out, the military brought them in for mascots and then let them out, private zoos, collectors. Like, I messaged him afterwards and I'm like, dude, the exact stories that you told are the same stories that get told over here with big cats. I was out hunting in the Adelaide Hills here for goats with one of my mates, and we're sitting on this property in our cars glassing this mob of goats, and we're watching and my mate goes, hey man, what the fuck is that? And as he said that, these big black cats ran through the middle of these goats and these sheep that were in the middle of this paddock, and these cats just ran through. The goats are separated. And I'm like, that's a fucking big cat. And he's like, no, it wasn't. I'm like, dude, you pointed it out. You seen it. You asked what it was.
Yeah, you've seen it.
That's what it was. And he's still, like, he's the one that brought it to my attention. I would have not seen it if he didn't point it out. And he still is in disbelief. And, as soon as I seen it, I got home and jumped on the internet. I've typed in the area, and there was 5 or 6 sightings in the last couple years in that area of it. I'm like, fucking this is 10, 12 years ago, but and then like you've got all the big cat forums on Facebook of people that have taken photos. Growing up, I was a member of the Sporting Shooters, so you'd get a magazine once a month. And one of the articles was this fella, I believe it's been debunked, and there's lots of different myths about it. But there's a fella in Victoria, I believe it was, who actually shot a big cat, this real big black panther. He's got a photo of it, missing half of its head, but hanging up on a rope, and he's standing. It's hard to tell if it's like an illusion, a photo illusion, where he's standing that far behind it. It looks massive.
Looks huge, doesn't it?
Yeah. So there's all these stories, Speaking about Australian UFO stories, though, you've got the most famous one of the school where the UFO landed next to a school in Australia that Rogan's talked about a few times. So that'd be a cool one to. And there was 100 people that seen it. All these kids gave reports on it, and so that'd be a cool one for you to look into.
That might be a cool one to 100%. If it starts the conversation, people will see the video and go, I think something like that's happened to me, and then they send in stories, and it just you get a snowball effect happening, and you're like, this is so cool.
Yeah, that's it. But at the end of the day, does it turn to be like one of those things where you talk about it that much, it kind of becomes true because people can't start seeing it, like a thought form,
100%, 100%. And it does. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. But that's with my content. It's so funny that you were you're into all that side of my content as well, being the outdoorsman that you are. It's so cool. But that's why I always say, I'm I don't care how old you are. Everyone's into hearing some creepy or spooky, unexplainable shit, especially when you're watching my content when you're in, you're chilling in bed or something, when you're safe at home. And then some dude comes on the screen and he's like, hear this story. It is fucked up. You're like, oh, hell yeah, game on.
I'm more sitting in the work truck or either out hunting, just waiting for a deer to come through, scrolling through TikTok. I'm like, oh, here's a ghost story. Let's listen to this.
Yeah, let's have a tune in.
It's a good laugh. What about you? Have you had any experiences out there apart from just running into a creepy bushman? Do you believe there's ghosts and these yowies? Because there's people that hunt yowies in Australia. They go out and tap trees, much like the Bigfoot hunters in the States. But you said, the Aboriginal people have a story for it, but then every culture around the world has whether it's ghosts, whether it's Bigfoot, all these different mythical creatures and shit like that. I know this is probably not where you're expecting a hunting camping podcast to go down.
I'm here for it, though. I'm here for it. I mean, that's the ticket. That's bang on the money, though, isn't it? All of these cultures have their own variation of it. And, when you look at a complete opposite end of the world and they're telling the same story, and these stories started before social media, I like to, and you know what, I'll always expend my belief a little bit and sort of just go, let's play into it. We'll play into it. But if America and Australia and Norway and Egypt and all these places are saying the same story of spotting the same thing, well, who's to say that it's not real then? I mean, so many people have seen it.
That's it, man. That's it. My 4-year-old. So I got 2 kids. I got a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old. My 4-year-old is obsessed with Bigfoot at the moment. He's like, can we go find Bigfoot? Is there Bigfoot in Australia? And, then I start telling him about yowies. And then, so we got because we grew up with the yowies, the chocolate. That's kind of how we come across what a yowie is. But here in South Australia, in a place called Murray Bridge, we have the it's not a yowie, but it's basically very similar. They just have a different name for it. But the big mechanical thing that lives in a cave, you go up, press a button, and it comes out of the water, and it's freaks kids out. It's right next to a little road, and fucking all the kids run straight towards the road because it freaks the shit out of them. But it's telling the local Aboriginal story that this thing comes out of the river. If you pollute or you're disrespectful, you take too many fish, this will come up and take your kids and drag them into the river.
It's a good story, isn't it? Essentially clean up your rubbish when you're done out in the bush, or this fucking monster's gonna get you.
Oh fuck, man! This has just popped into my mind. So I grew up doing a lot of camping and full driving and fishing and hunting with my grandparents. I'd stay with them every fortnight almost. Would go, full driving down the beach, or, hills runs, or, I'd do 2-3 week trips with them up to the centre of Australia and up to Queensland. This one time, I would have been about 8, we went up to the centre and went to Uluru. So we're walking around Uluru and, being a kid, you're like, oh, Uluru, here's a fucking cool piece of rock. So I grabbed that, put it in my pocket. And, Pop goes, the Karachi man will get you for that. And, being a kid, you're like, ha ha ha. It's in my pocket. And the whole way back, he's the Kadachi man's going to get you. The Kadachi man's going to get you. 2 nights later, 3 nights later, whenever it was, middle of the night, the caravan door swings open in the wind and just bangs. I've just jumped out of bed. I've grabbed the rock and I've thrown it out.
Yeah, just take it. I don't want it.
Shit scared. No, I don't want it. You can have it. But again, that's how those stories start.
100%. 100%. You're just like, well, the camper van's never done that before, and it's never done it since. So it was either that or your grandpa's going, I'm going to stitch him up here. I'm going to teach him a little lesson.
Which is 100% probably what it was, you know.
And that's it, though. That's it. You would have shit yourself. You would have been scared. But it's one of them stories that now you sit back and you laugh and you have so much fun with it. You're like, oh, jeez. And it just gets passed on and passed on.
So, yeah, I just paused it there for a second, but I will just kick back into it. I asked you, what were your beliefs, you know? Yeah, you think that it, you know, something could be out there, or you reckon it's just your imagination running wild?
I choose to believe it because I find it fun. On a personal level, I find it fun, and I sit back and I go, you know, I can debunk these things very easily, and in some videos I will. But then I sit back and I go, well, where's the fun in that, though? You know, I want to keep that bit of a childhood spark going that I had growing up. And I'm like, no, I enjoy believing it. I have more fun believing it. So it causes no harm. I'm going to believe it.
No, that's the way to do it, you know. Speaking of doing these videos, what actually made you start your channel on talking about, you know, full driving, camping, and then, you know, all your ghost stories?
I was always one of those people that when the YouTube app came out, I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, being able to jump on social media. Like, we didn't even have social media back then. It was YouTube. And it just used to be like, you know, I think I used to use it just to watch like movie trailers and stuff like that. And then it actually went into like such a weird niche, but like fireworks, and I figured out what sparkler bombs were that they were making in the States and stuff. And I'm like, this website has everything. Like, this is so cool. And back then it was just literally people just, you know, filming whatever. It was the Wild West out on YouTube, and I loved it. And I stuck on that app forever, just always watching stuff. And, you know, even now I'll jump on and I'll watch some Netflix series here and there, or a movie, but primarily I'm consuming my information through other people telling stories, through a lens, through YouTube, through Instagram and stuff like that. And you pick up so much from it. And it was always something I wanted to do. And I was too scared to take that leap into social media. Putting your face out there on the internet, it is such a scary thing. And you're like, one, what if people watch my content and they go, dude, you're lame as, like, what is this? Which evidently it's going to happen no matter what.
It does.
It's going to happen no matter what, but probably 10 times worse. Like, the feedback that you're going to get from people, it's 10 times worse. But without getting like too morbid on it, last year we lost a child when my partner was 20 weeks pregnant. And it sort of just like flicked something in me where I sort of just sat back and, you know, after the grieving process, I went, things can change really quick. And after that, like, the shining light that came from it, I suppose, because I try to take good from every situation, is I've sort of got this mentality now of just do it. And I went, stuff it. I'm going to just download this TikTok app that a lot of people seem to be using at the moment. And I've got a cousin who lives in America. He's got about 8-9 million followers. Like, this is his full-time career. He's pretty successful on it. And I'm just like, well, that's that app he uses. Let's jump on there. And we'll see what this is all about. And my niche in four-wheel driving, I just started searching four-wheel driving videos, and I was getting all these cool videos and cool builds and stuff. And I'm like, this is unreal. I could do this. Like, I could jump on, and literally just started my account. And I think the first video I made was reviewing some King's gear. And I'm like, all right. And it got a pretty good reception. It got some bad reception, as it always does. But then after that, I'm like, all right, well, let's keep going. Let's sort of try to, like, you know, target people that aren't rolling in money, that need to sort of start budget building, because, you know, as you would know as well as a parent, mate, all your income and all that bit of extra money that you did used to have is into the kids.
Yep.
So I'm
100%.
like, all right, well, when I changed cars and picked up the Triton, I'm like, I need to go a cheap vehicle. I need to go a cheaper vehicle that I can build, and I need to try to do this on a budget because I need a new car. But I need to be mindful about money because one of our boys, we had to get him braces and everything. It's such an expense, and I'm like, all right, how can we do this? And then I'm like, well, budget building cars, like, is that what stops people from sort of getting outdoors, like, because they think they don't have the money? And I just sort of went into that niche of it, of like, just get out there, no more excuses.
Yeah.
You can do it. You don't need the best or the brightest or the jazziest gear. That will come in time. But have a look at my car, like, and I've got some experience with four-wheel driving, so I'm pretty comfortable with it. But in the same breath, experience is one thing, but the vehicle, although it does help, it's not a game changer. You can get out there with this stock standard gear and put your vehicle through the paces, because I do it every weekend.
Yeah.
I do it every weekend. And, I completely flooded my car, carpet out, seats out and everything. And I had that drying out for 2 weeks. But, probably wouldn't have happened if I was in a different vehicle, but it didn't stop me. And that was sort of the social media, kickoff point for us. And it's been about nine months now on the platform. And I'm starting to learn it. There's a lot of skill that does come with creating videos and content that people probably don't think, but it is an art form. It is something you need to really learn. You really need to learn it, and you would know that yourself, being in this industry for so long.
Yeah, look, I have a love-hate relationship with TikTok, because all the content I want to post gets taken down within minutes. Anything that has a firearm in it, anything that has a dead animal in it, bam, it's gone instantly. I have a few videos that have snuck past the algorithm and reports and that. I've done better, with a couple of fishing videos, or like, my biggest video was a mate of mine catching a brown snake out the front of BCF when I worked there. And, that blew up to, I think it's almost at 40 million views, like just absolute crazy. I'm like, oh shit, I can use this to, build a good platform for hunting and hunters. But as every hunter that has social media, TikTok knows that, they're just freaking real strict on what you can and can't post. I've tried doing lives out hunting and bam, straight off, just any you got some blood on your arm, you got anything, and it's just bam.
You can use the platform to promote your OnlyFans and link people directly to that, and you can throw that out there in a softer form, and they're fine with it. But I post a video of us we hooked up a really good mako. And it was such a good, that was my best catch, was this mako shark. I can't post it because, there's too much blood on it. And I sit back and I go, how is it that you can have people shaking their ass on this platform and they're just like, you do you. But when it comes to hunting or fishing, even driving, all the four-wheel driving pages now, we get hit straight away. Like, that is essentially, that for us is your blood in a video. Like, behind the wheel. Even if you're on the tracks, bang, it's straight off. It's reported.
It's so frustrating, because you can post it on Instagram, not an issue. You can post it on Facebook, not an issue. Hunters get a lot of what they call like shadow banned. So on Instagram, you post too much guns, too much hunting, you get shadow banned. You get stuff taken down. It's then like hunting stuff starts getting shared in these anti-hunting groups. I went viral a few years ago for shooting some feral cats and just got absolutely blown up. Anti-hunters, death threats. And like, I'd report the death threats, and Facebook would be like, oh, I don't see an issue with this. Or Instagram would be like, I don't see an issue with this. I'm like, they're threatening to skin me alive, and you don't have an issue with it. But I post a video of me skinning a deer for food, and you have an issue with it. Like, it's so frustrating.
How have you found it when you do go to that ultra viral point? Because I think my best video has done, I think, 700,000 views. I haven't cracked 1 million views. So you've got that brown snake video that goes 40 million, but then the cat, like that ended up, Joe Rogan spoke about that.
Yeah.
Like I've heard that on his podcast. How does that feel? What are your thoughts when all that happens and you go, well, we are blowing up right now. We are trending.
Yeah, so that went on before TikTok. So like the whole cat thing blew up in 2016-ish, and then it peaked again, and then it went down. It peaked again. You know, I'm not ashamed of it. I've straight away, like I haven't shown it on the old TikTok, but I got the cat skin hat, the cat skin hat, you know, like it's
unreal.
And I got a cat skin stubby holder right here as well, you know, like these are what I'm known for. You know, everyone's like, oh, bring out the cat skin stubby holder, you know, just because it's like a party trick for me, you know, and you know, tell the cat story, tell the Joe Rogan story. So it's like peaked. It got mentioned on Joe Rogan. Then I helped with an article for the New York Times on feral cats. So it's like peaked and valleyed. You know, it pissed some hunters off that it put us in the main light. You know, some South Australian hunters blame me for the potential South Australian bow hunting ban because of the whole cat saga and, you know, putting too much light on it. So like it peaks and valleys, but overall, like the whole hunting community have been bloody amazing. And, you know, that's why I've been able to, you know, start a podcast and talk about these things, you know, and say, you know, bits of the whole cat saga weren't the greatest public light. But hey, I'm out there, I'm trying to say, like, this is what we're doing. And, you know, don't take it away from us. You know, this is who we are. We're just everyday people, and this is what we do.
At the end of the day, and I've realized this in the last 10 months, but no matter what type of content you put out, there's going to be someone who's complaining about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good your intentions are. It doesn't matter how nefarious your intentions are. You know, if you're putting out content to build people up or bring people down, there are going to be people that have an issue with it either way. So just, you know what, stick to the path of what you're doing, because sitting back from my side of the industry, I'm sitting back going, you're doing awesome stuff for the great outdoors.
Yeah,
so stick at it.
Yeah, that's it. Like, you know, everyone talks about it. You know, it gets brought up in the hunting community quite a bit of this tall poppy syndrome. And we were talking about it before the podcast started, you know, and you see a lot of it, you know, through the full drive community too. Because I'm on a bunch of the full driving pages and that, and I watch what goes on, you know. I drive an RC Colorado, and I sit there in the 4JJ1 groups and the RC Colorado groups just watching, you know, people post their car and people are like, oh, why did you get that? You know, why'd you get that suspension upgrade? Why'd you get this exhaust? Oh, it's what I could afford. And people are like, well, you shouldn't have got that. You should have got this. And then it's just people bringing them down no matter what. And that's one of the subjects you cover quite heavily on your channel, you know, talking about this tall poppy syndrome, you know, people, you know, getting the best that they can to try and build their cars. And then, you know, people that have tons of money or, you know, freaking thousands of dollars in debt because they're building these cars, just shitting on people that are just starting out or, you know, can't afford to mod their cars with the best shit and not driving 79 series Land Cruisers, you know, with 100 grand of mods on them.
That's like, it's exactly it, because I sit back and I sort of figured, like, that's where the big divide is. You've got, you know, people that can only afford this and they're running this gear, and it's divided by, you know, people that probably can get the higher end vehicles, and there's a split in the community. And I'm like, if I can just, and it's so hard being one person trying to do it, but I've realized there's a lot of people that are actually about this, which is awesome. And I speak so passionately about it, but I'm like, if we can stamp out this bullshit, literally you've doubled the numbers of people that actually care and give a shit about the outdoors, you know. And then it's like, there's so many people that are into camping and stuff, but they hate hunting, you know. And I've had people that have left my Facebook group because I allow people to post their photos of trophies of hunts and everything.
Sorry.
Because I'm sitting, yeah, no, but, and that's the thing. I'll push people out if they've got an issue with it, because I'm sitting back going, well, this is the great outdoors for everyone. So, you know, if you're condoning four-wheel driving, because for us, a lot of people can come and say, you're destroying the tracks. You're absolutely fucking the tracks up and it ruins it for everyone else. You four-wheel drivers, we get a bad rap for destroying tracks, for littering, which I agree is an issue. Because out on these tracks, there's so much rubbish that we try to clean up, but burnt out cars out there as well. We get a rap for that. So I sit back and go, well, if we're condoning this, well, not condoning it, but if this is our industry and we're building it up, don't come at people for hunting. Then you can't have one without the other. This is all recreational things that occur out in the bush. This is what the page is about. So no, I'm real big on it. I'm real big on it. And I just want to cut that divide in half. And, it's funny. That's why with the podcast that me and Sienna are making, we've got each side of the industry. She's driving a $100,000 79 series. I'm driving a Triton. And it's just so funny. She's a small gay female.
She looks like a bloody character.
She's a champion, but so we've literally, I'm a tall, straight, white male. We've got each we're playing on each other's, differences in such a fun way. But it's if me and you can become this close, the whole fucking industry can. And that's part of the mission. That's part of the brand that we made. And that's why it's so cool. It's so cool, Zach, just to have you sort of reach out and say, jump on my podcast and my platform, because I sit back and go, well, it's fucking working. It's working to have people that are quite well respected in the hunting community sort of looking at us going, hey, good job, guys. From our industry to yours, good stuff. It's unreal. It's unreal.
Well, look, that's why the podcast is called Hunting Connection Podcast. I'm trying to make these connections in the outdoor community, not just the hunting community, but the outdoor community. And watching you starting your podcast with Sienna is a blast. Those shorts that you're posting where she's just pissing herself laughing, and you're trying to kick off. I could only imagine what your editing process. My editing process is, I click stop at the end of this podcast, I clip the sound bites together, and I click upload. That's my editing. If you say something you want taken out, I'll take that out, but this goes up raw, unedited, and what you're hearing is what you're getting, So
yeah.
Seeing her just pissing herself laughing, I'm like, oh fuck. I'm just the amount of editing, the stop starting, when I first started out, pronouncing names. I'm dyslexic as all hell. So reading names of, different people from different cultures, I'll say a name and they're like, oh, actually it's this. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, stop, restart. And now I don't even restart. I just go, all right, I fucked it up. I'll take that on the chin,
It's funny because that's sort of where I want our podcast to go to. I love this format of podcasting because I feel like this is where you get some real true interactions. And that's awesome. So 4 hours, we're sort of going we're doing 20-minute short podcasts at the moment. And that'll go up on YouTube, but we're sort of covering 5 topics. So we have a topic jump of, just relevancy in Australia. So we'll have 2 things that are pretty relevant, in the news at the time, and then some 4-wheel driving and camping hacks, and then, some viewer side things that are coming into it too. But I think we will try to transition as well into just this free flow podcasting, because this is sort of where you get the best conversations from. If we were sticking to a script, well, no one would know about the button man on this podcast, and now you know to look out.
Yeah, man, that's it. I have, this podcast is reasonably scripted. Like I said, I went through the typical questions, and then I've changed them up for the full driving camping side of things. I ask very similar questions, but depending on the guest, we take all sorts of rabbit holes. Which is great fun. But, we've got some awesome outdoor podcasts here in Australia, not just South Australia, but you've got the boys over at Send It Mate podcast, which is a really, really good one for you to check out. Hunting, shooting, fishing, camping, 3 mates.
Yeah.
It started off with one of the guys left, and then they replaced him with another one of their mates, and it's epic podcast, really good. Lots of shit talk, lots of banter, which is the Australian way. That's what we're, you talk shit with your mates. The episodes where I have multiple people on here, like 3.5 hours long, some of them, because you're just talking absolute shit. And they seem to be the best ones, And when you can have a more free flowing conversation like you and I are having right now, I think we covered 5 questions, and that's about all we've covered so far,
Yeah.
which is better because the conversation's flowing freely, stuff's popping to my mind. You're asking questions, which makes it good fun, and the listeners seem to enjoy this type of conversation much more,
100%, because, I'm sitting back, and as a listener, it's cool because you host the podcast, but I'm going, well, fuck, what's Zach's thoughts on this too? Unless you're going out on a lot of different podcasts, which we'd love to have you on our podcast once we do get some, some flow effect happening and we actually understand what the fuck we're doing.
Oh, come on, man.
We'd love to have you on it. We'd love to have you on it. But that's the thing as well. I do enjoy hearing what the host of the podcast has to say about stuff as well, because you're hosting this podcast because you're experienced in this field. So I'm like, I'm going to ask you questions. I want to fucking know. It's cool. It's really cool.
But yeah, you've got lots of stuff going on at the moment. You've got your TikTok, which covers a bunch of stuff. You've got your podcast, which is, do you have a name for it yet? This is coming out roughly when your podcast should be coming out. So if it's not out yet, wait for it. And if it is out yet, go and listen. Go watch the first episode. What's the name?
Yeah, so you'll be able to find the podcast. It will definitely be on YouTube, and the name is Thunder Down Under.
Thunder Down Under. Love it.
So that's me and Sienna, and we are just 2 Aussie yappers covering just Aussie shit, having a laugh, talking about the great outdoors, talking about things that are relevant in the media and everything. So that's the podcast. I've got the TikTok page, which I do really want to grow that. I've got a love-hate relationship with TikTok myself, because just the algorithm in general is painful.
It's very
that's
painful.
what I try to tell people. You just got to stick with it, because you could make the best video you've ever made and you'll get fucking 200 views on it, and you'll make a video that took no effort that blows up and pulls in 2,000 followers, and you go, I don't even want to be known for that video. That's just me being a dickhead. But whatever. But so TikTok, I'm really trying to grow on, and then we've invested a lot of time and money into our clothing line, which is Bush Culture. So you can check us out. But yeah, it's Bush Culture Clothing, and essentially it's all in the name. When we grew up, we always had this belief system of, looking out for your fellow adventurer. If you're into the great outdoors, I'm into the great outdoors. We've got that connection, and it's, everyone comes from a different culture. I always just say, well, our culture is bush culture. That's what we're known for. And some of the best people I've ever met are out on the tracks, out in the bush. Some of the most helpful people that would they'd pull their shirt off for you and give it to you if you were cold, is someone you could just meet out on the tracks. So that's sort of what built this up. And I just want the Bush Culture brand to be, if you see someone in one of our hoodies, one of our shirts, that you've got a friend in that person. You can come over, come in, join, jump around the campfire with us, share stories, share tales, tell us about some tracks you've hit, share experiences. That's what I want for the brand, to just be inclusive for everyone. So, I don't care if you never gone 4-wheel driving, or you've just bought your first car and you don't know what the hell you're doing with it. And then you see someone who can be driving around in a 79 series, who's been wheeling for 20, 30 years. If you're both rocking bush culture stuff, or you both believe in the message, go up to that person, have a conversation. They'll help you out, because they're not wearing the clothes or the brand without believing in that bush culture mentality that we all hold.
No, that's awesome, man. That's something that people are trying to do here in the hunting side of things as well. You've got some incredible hunting brands on site. So you've got, in Victoria, you've got High Country Hunting Gear, you've got Peak Country, which the fella's not far from where you're based. Then you've got Eureka Outdoors, and it's these hunting brands that are trying to build a culture. There's a fella that started like a fox hunting competition that's through Facebook and Instagram and stuff, into the night. And when I was in Mansfield for the hunting expo up there, in the pub after the expo, and see the shirt, and I walk up to him, I'm like, oh, what a shit competition this is. Like, just having a laugh and get chatting. He's like, oh, Max, do you? I'm like, yeah, I know Max. And then got chatting, new friend, like just one of those things. You see someone, if I see someone in a hunting brand, whether, it's your more traditional stuff like Spike, or like any of your camo brands, Huntec, Brackenwear, any of these hunting, like you go up and chat to them. And yeah, that's what you're doing with bush culture, which is freaking awesome.
How do you find, Zach? This is a good question, and I asked this myself, but maybe some new listeners too. And again, you'll probably do cover off on this, but just because it sort of circulates around similar content, but from a different niche, how do you find the hunting industry? So for a new person like me that has no idea about hunting, I'll probably ask like some fucking stupid questions, dumb questions, and do dumb shit. How do you find, like, is it a very big gate kept industry at the moment? Because 4-wheel driving is, I hate saying it, but it is gate kept.
Yeah.
How do you find the similarities or differences in hunting for someone new getting into the scene? I walk into a hunting expo or something like that. One, you'd probably be able to pick us out right away that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, because I'm looking at just fucking whatever. But how do you find the industry welcoming new people into it?
Depends who you go talk to, and depends what your mentality is like when you come into it. If you're, just say you're at the expo and you go up to say I'm in the high country hunting booth with Dano, who runs it, and I'm helping him, sell hoodies and hats and stuff like that. If you come in and like, yeah, I want to go out and shoot everything that moves, and just shoot everything and kill everything, and I don't care about picking it up, you're going to get shunned. But, if you're go up to the right group of people and you're like, hey man, how you going? Look, I want to get into hunting. I've done a fair bit of full driving and camping, but, hunting's the thing that I want to get into next. We'll be like, look, you're in Victoria. You've got the More to Explore app, which I'm sure you're probably fairly certain with, because hunting and full driving and camping, you scroll over to the hunting map. It shows all the purple land is everything you can hunt. So I would say, go get your hunting permit, go get your stalking permit, your firearms license if you want to use a firearm, or go get a bow if you want to get a bow. Practice. Go practice. Get out to the bush. Go for a walk. Start learning, Depending if who you chat to, they'll be like, all right, come out with me for the day. I'll take you out, You get your firearms license. All right, here you go. Here's my rifle. Come out with me. Come shoot a deer and, show you the basics. The hunting industry in general is getting better. It's not as gate kept, unless you're chasing those bigger trophies, like the guys that are chasing the 30+ inch sambar stag. These people that have their secret spots, they have the private properties that they're hunting. I take a lot of new guys out, and because of the podcast, I get lots of new guys reaching out to me like, I'm in this state, how can I get into hunting? And I'll, if they're in Victoria, I'll send them the More to Explore app. I'll explain to them. If they're in South Australia, I'll be like, look, we got these clubs, I've got this group of guys that we once a month or once every couple months, we catch up for dinner. So I'll invite them into the dinner chat and then say, we're going out for dinner on this Thursday, come out. You're going to meet 6 hunters that hunt every second weekend and have killed some amazing game. Ask them, pick their brains, If you're lucky, they might invite you out. If they think you're a good guy, they might invite you out. Go find property. If you don't have property, like South Australia, we have no public land to hunt. In South Australia, I'll say, go find a property. You find 40 acres with rabbits on it, I'll come out and show you what to do. To shoot the rabbits, to process the rabbits, to cook the rabbits. It's just what you can give, what you can get type thing. And it's only getting better.
No, it's unreal. That's awesome to hear.
But yeah, it's just it's a really cool community, and it is getting better and better through shows like, I'm not sure if you've heard of it or seen it, but there's a show that was on Netflix. It's mainly on YouTube now, called Meat Eater with Stephen Ranella. And
I've had people recommend it. I'm yet to watch it myself, but I have had fair few people recommend it.
yeah, so when that went mainstream through Netflix, it's people were just like, oh, damn, we can, it was just as COVID was kicking off here in Australia, it went on Netflix. And people are stuck at home, they turn on Netflix, oh, what's this Meat Eater show? And this guy's going out shooting deer and bear and cooking it up, like, on the same episode. And people are like, holy fuck, you can do that? And then they start looking into it in Australia, and they're like, oh, shit, we can get guns here. Oh shit, we have deer here in Australia. Like, people don't know we have deer here, which blows me away.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
I speak to people weekly and they're like, what, we have deer here? And it's just, yeah, absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And that's the thing. I always try to find a bit of good in everything. That was one of the good things about COVID. So many people sort of sat back, and, I know so many people that love four-wheel driving now that started researching their first four-wheel drive in COVID, and they're like, I'm going to build a COVID car. This looks fucking awesome. I'm sick of being in my house. I need to get outdoors. Like, they're chomping at the lip, and they're watching, despite what people think about it. But, you're watching shows like Four-Wheel Drive 24/7 and this and that, and they're just like, holy fuck, that looks fun. That looks incredible. Look at all the places they're going to. And then they just all started building these COVID cars, or, as soon as restrictions got lifted in Victoria, they were jumping in whatever they could. And they're like, we're going out to the bush. We're going to cook around a campfire and drink beer with our friends. And that was, I like to think that, it's probably the same in the hunting industry. So many people started watching shows like Meat Eater, and they're like, holy, it wasn't just Tiger King during COVID. No. There were some other things too. But yeah, so they've come out of it and gone, I want to get into hunting. That's fucking sick.
Yeah, and with the hunting side of things, because you had that supermarket shortage of meat, people were struggling to buy meat in the supermarket. People were like thinking, what the fuck can we do to, counteract this whole grocery strain? So they started growing gardens. People started buying little hobby farms and, growing all their gardens and raising chickens and lambs and goats and all of that. And then they're like, oh, fuck, we can hunt too. So they started hunting, and, it's just crazy the influx of hunters Australia had over COVID. Yeah, no,
it sort of took us a little bit back to, being a bit more self-sufficient. And I really like that. I think that was a positive that came out of that shit show. I mean, for us in Victoria, it got pretty rough Dictator at one stage.
Yep.
Yeah, it got pretty fucking rough. I think it was within 5 kilometers we could go from our it got rough. I won't harp on all that crap, but nah, that was a benefit. That was a benefit that came out of it. So it's pretty awesome to see people new in the industry that are like, oh yeah, I started around 2020, and I'm just like, unreal. That's sick.
So, what would be your top beginner tip for someone getting into full driving? What would be a car they should look out for? Jump in on Marketplace. I've got a mate now who's looking for a full drive. He wants to spend around that $6,000 mark. He doesn't have a massive budget. What would you be looking for, and what would be your top beginner tip for someone picking out a 4B?
So the vehicle that you're looking for, I would probably say first you have to decide what type of four-wheel driving you want to do. Do you want to go out? Do you want to hit tracks, hard tracks, or do you want to sort of set up a bit of a touring rig and, travel around and be able to get a little bit of everywhere, but probably steer clear of some of these bigger tracks? I'm going to do it as a 2-part tip. And then the second part of that tip would be, though, understand the vehicle that you're buying. If you are buying an IFS vehicle, if you're buying a Hilux, let's say, all right, so we'll break it down. Let's say if you're buying a Hilux, a Triton, or a Colorado, don't go trying to change this into a Nissan Patrol or a Land Cruiser. Understand the vehicle that you're driving, because once you understand your vehicle, once you understand your capabilities of that car, it is going to make your life so much easier. So much easier. You see too many people that, they'll buy a Triton like mine. Mine's a 2022 Triton. They'll buy a Triton like that and they go, all right, what's the next step? Well, we need to put 34, 35-inch tires on it. How do we do that? We need to go crazy with the grinder. We need to lift that thing. We need to lift it 75, 80 mil. We need to get that high up and then we can use it. We need to change control arms and this and that. And you sit back and you're just like, I'm just watching them and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, that is, all you're going to do is just destroy your vehicle. You're going to absolutely burn through your bank account and you won't have fun with it because you're never going to be able to get that car to the capability level that you want it to be at. So my number one beginner tip would be just understand what vehicle you're driving because they're bloody capable. I truly believe that you can get anywhere in Australia on 32-inch all-terrain tires with a 2-inch lift.
Yep.
If you have that, I believe that, the sky's the limit for Australian adventure. You can get anywhere. Chuck a winch on the vehicle. Learn when to use that winch. It will get you out of trouble. And, you sit back and just learn line selection. Learn what ruts to avoid. Learn what lines to take, and it's practice, and it's practice in that vehicle of yours. If you're sort of looking at, you got $6,000-7,000 to spend, jump on Marketplace, right? Have a mate. If you got a mate that's a mechanic and he's good with cars, get him involved. Get him to help you out because, a lot of the time people will see 400,000 kilometers on vehicles and it deters them right away. But if you're spending $6,000 and you can get, 150,000 out of that vehicle, it's a good investment. That's a good investment, and just so do your due diligence when you're buying a vehicle, for $7,000. Have a look at some of the old Holdens. Have a look at a Rodeo. Like, they are tough rigs.
And
they are tough rigs.
4JJ1 engine, the old RA Rodeos.
Mate, they will get you out there. You'll be out there. You will be having fun with that type of car. So, I'll always say, don't get caught up in thinking I need this brand vehicle. I need that brand vehicle. Because, and I was going to make a video about this today, just like understand your vehicle, because once you understand it, you'll be right. You'll be right because you can get out there and you can get anywhere that these other cars are doing it, and as much like I've sort of like drifted, I suppose, a little bit from watching 4-wheel drive 24/7, but, you have a look at people like Graham Cahill in the 4-wheel driving industry. He's not in a huge car. He's smashing it around in a D-Max 31. He's got 31s on it, 31.5-inch tires and a 2-inch lift. And he's out there tackling the biggest and the baddest.
Yeah.
So, that would be my number one piece of advice for someone new getting into it. And I wish I had that earlier.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. So what would be your top 5 items? They've just bought this RA Rodeo. It's pretty stock. What would be 5 things that you do to it to, give it the capability just to have a nice weekend out, exploring, the high country, going down to the beach, going up to the river, doing a few, immediate 4-drive tracks, just having a bit of fun. What would be the 5 items you'd chuck on it as a beginner?
Yeah, unreal. Right off the bat, I would say we need to get, if it's still on those road tires, we got to get them off. We got to get them off. So let's upgrade it. Let's upgrade our tires first. You just use the stock rims that you got on it.
Just lost you there for a second. So tires.
No, you're right.
It went from tires to stock rims.
Yes. No, we'll start it again. So it's like, I would go for tires first and foremost, whether you get your all-terrain or mud-terrain tires. If you're pretty new to it, get all-terrains. They'll last you longer, and you can sort of have a bit more of a play in different areas. With the muddies, which is what I'm in the market for now. They're more so because they're more aggressive. I'm going for a more harder style of 4-wheel driving now. I really want to push my car to its limits, and a lot of my driving, it's in the high country. Gets muddy, big rock steps. So I'm going to go muddies. But I'd say get tires first. Second, get yourself recovery gear. You need recovery gear, and I'm so big on safety on my page and just out there in the bush. But you need to have recovery gear because people might not realize it seeing these videos, but it gets dangerous. It gets extremely dangerous out there. And on King's birthday long weekend, like I had a pretty close call myself, where I was about 10 mil from rolling the car, 150 meters down a monster hill that I tackle. I tackled this run a lot, but due to the weather conditions, it was pretty touch and go. And yeah, I was punching it up this big hill climb, and the car jumped, hit a mud patch, and we just started sliding. And I actually did a full 90-degree turn. So my car in the middle of this track, it spun on its side, and we were up on two wheels there.
Nuts.
Pretty close to doing a full roll down this mountain. So that would have ended bad. So recovery gear is a big thing for me. If I was going to go with my third, if we're setting up a standard, bit of an adventure car, I would probably push someone towards getting a 12-volt system. Now, I'm more than happy to get people out there with an esky. An esky will last you a fair few days, but if you do want to sort of hit those destinations like the high country, it's a bit glamorous, but a fridge, mate, game changer.
100%.
A fridge in your vehicle is an absolute game changer. Out in areas like the high country, you need to be able to charge your phones. You want to have some light out there. You can get a cheap 12-volt system from Kings, from an XTM one, from BCF. If you're not across it too much, pay someone to wire it up for you. Don't go doing electrical work on your vehicle yourself if you're inexperienced with it, because there is a big risk of fires. So yeah, get someone to do it for you, but get some electricity in the back of that vehicle. You'll be changing the way that you camp forever.
100%.
Fourth thing, I'd say you need your first aid kit, you need your snake bite kit, and I'm gonna put UHF. I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to put UHFs in the same category, right? So we're just going to call it, your first aid and your safety gear. We'll call it, this is sort of the PPE of camping and four-wheel driving, but you need communications out there. You need to be able to speak to other adventurers out there, other convoys out there. Things can get hairy. Your UHF is your best friend in those situations. If you're going out with other people, you need to be able to communicate, or if you're in a sticky situation on the tracks, you're going to need, and you need a spot from someone, you need a UHF to be able to hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
So we'll put UHFs in the same category as first aid kits, snake bite kits. So these are just all the things that will get you out there, and you just want to know that you and the people you're with, you're in safe hands, and if anything were to happen, you can sort of cover yourself off a little bit there. What's that? So we're at 3 items now, aren't we?
That's 4.
That's 4. What would be my 5th? Simple. Basic swag or tent.
Yep. Beautiful.
Basic swag or tent. I've probably differed a little bit from the video that I made the other day, but I'm sort of sitting here thinking, just looking around, and I'm like, no, you need a good swag, a good tent, something that can sort of brace the elements a little bit. And a swag is unreal to get out there.
100%.
Once you get comfortable with swag camping, which, a lot of people who don't go out much probably haven't done much swag camping, but once you get comfortable in a swag, you will never go back to a tent. Never.
No, that's 100% true, man. Like I've been in a swag since I was about 12, 13, and it's even going into our camper trailer now with the wife and the kids. I still get a better sleep in my swag than I do the camp. I get a better sleep in my swag than I do my own bloody bed.
yeah, no, you do, because you were toasty, you were warm, you get cuddled up in there with your blanket, and you're like, this is unreal. If it's a warm night, pulling the canvas over the swag, what an awesome way to camp that is. What an awesome way to camp.
Fly screens open, and you're just watching the stars and the moon, and you see the Starlink satellite cruise across the sky. This day.
Yeah. How unreal is it? How unreal.
That's nuts. And then explaining swag camping to Americans, that's one thing that TikTok's been great for, is I've been able to cut that distance chatting to Americans and Canadians, and talking these things with them, and explaining swag camping to an American. They're like, what? You sleep in a canvas burrito? Can't you get eaten by animals?
Yeah, they're just like, I'm not doing that. I would not do that. And you're like, guys, we're telling you, it's something different.
Yeah, no, it's
these days as well, you can get pretty big swags, though, can't you? You jump in like a double swag or a big daddy swag from a super center.
King's
It's
Deluxe.
nearly the size of some of the old tents we used to go out in. Like these things, they're luxury.
Yeah, I've got my single that I don't, I've never even used the poles in it. I just, slide in there, chuck the canvas over my head and fall asleep. And people are like, don't you get claustrophobic? And then I hop into, because I used to work at BCF of all places. And then, so I got the Wanderer double swag. And you get in there, it's like a bloody mansion,
Yeah, you're just like, whoa.
So much room for activities.
It's like, this is insane. This is awesome.
But yeah, that's...
But no, so yeah, swag. Get yourself a good swag and you're off. You're off at the races.
That's a good list, real great list. The tires are a big step. When I had an RA Rodeo there for a minute, had road tires on it, tried to do a real muddy hill climb, could not make it, just kept sliding back down. Chucked all-terrains on it and bam, straight up, no issues, just crawled straight up, in all conditions, which is, a bloody good thing. Recovery gear, like you said, is a bloody must. The 12-volt system is a game changer. I got a...
Yeah, look, I'm getting a bit fancy there, but, not necessary. But, I mean, if we've got some money to throw at it, it doesn't need to be much. Doesn't need to be a lot. Get a cheapy brand. You'll be all right.
Look, I got the 80-litre companion fridge in there, the dual zone. I got the King, like the full drive super center, the little 12-volt system in there. The dual battery was already in the back of this RC when I got it. So I've just connected that up. And, as a hunter, you shoot a deer. It's a warm night. You chop all your deer up, put it into bits, wrap it all up in Glad wrap or put it in your sandwich bags, however you're doing it. Cryovac it if you got a 12-volt cryovac. Bam, straight into the fridge, chuck it on freeze, and then by the time you get home, you just unpack, a pre-butchered deer straight into the freezer at home, already frozen. It's a bloody game changer.
How unreal is that? How unreal is that? So yeah, no, I will. I do throw 12-volt in there now because I'm just like, you know what? If we're going to plan this, a lot of people will say, oh, I need to get a lift kit. No, you don't. Bugger the lift kit, get your 12-volt system.
Yeah.
Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the long run for that trade-off.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely a bit more comfortable for people, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So jumping along in questions, we'll do like a bit of a hot seat here. Zombie apocalypse weapon.
Oh, what's my go-to zombie apocalypse weapon? I'm not going to say, I can't say guns but like I'd love to, but that's boring. That's not right. So, I wonder, what? I'd say like being in the 4-wheel driving scene, we'll stick with a car, but I'd probably like at the end of Dawn of the Dead where they've got the bus and they work on that. I'd probably go for like just a big like 4-wheel drive, spikes on the side and everything like that, big floodies on it, and I'll just punch through and drive through everything until I get out to the bush. Side. Yeah, exactly. I'll just make a murder mobile.
Beautiful. What have you forgotten on a hunting trip? Sorry. Reading the questions. What have you forgotten on a full driving trip? Not a hunting trip.
Worst thing I've forgotten on a 4-wheel driving trip is my sleeping bag. So I had my swag. I didn't bring my sleeping bag on my pillow, so I was using my backpack as a pillow, and I had a couple of jackets in the car that I had to use as a blanket. So shock and move.
That's bloody rough. I just got this, speaking of sleeping bags, I just got this -18 hiking sleeping bag for when I do my backpack trips. And I chucked that out in my swag the other day. And oh, dude, I've never been toastier in my swag. Like I was
really
laying on the blankets that I usually have in there, but I had this I haven't had the opportunity to use it yet. I'll just lay it out on top of the blankets, and fuck me, it was about 2 degrees outside, and man, I was toasty. So yeah, if you guys are looking for a decent sleeping bag, look at Domex sleeping bags, just insanely warm. Thought I'd throw that little plug in there while you had it.
No, 100%, love that. Domex sleeping bags, guys.
What's the most important item you take out with you full driving?
Most important item I take four-wheel driving with me. It is my first aid kit. My first aid kit.
Yeah, beautiful. What would be your top 5 dream destinations in Australia to go that you haven't been to?
I've travelled all of Australia. So top 5 locations.
You've travelled all of Australia. What would be your top 5 destinations for someone getting into hunting? Getting into full driving to go check out.
You got to go to Fraser Island.
Yep.
It's immaculate out there. It's something special. Victorian High Country. It's the mecca of four-wheel driving. Sorry to all the other states. Mecca of four-wheel driving. You'll love it out there.
100% agree.
I'd say you got to go do the Cape. You got to do the old tally track up there. Flinders Ranges, 100%. And let's pick something special. You're a four-wheel driver. What's going to be the final destination on our journey? I'm going to throw a curveball in there. I'm going to go something a little bit different. I'd say jump on the boat. Go to Tassie. Yep. Go to Tasmania. Have a look at some of the tracks out there. Do some of the snow runs out there. That is some incredibly intense four-wheel driving.
Beautiful.
It's not for the faint-hearted out that way, but yeah, jump across. Go to Tassie.
Awesome. So you've done the Flinders Ranges. Speaking, South Australian here. So you've done the Flinders.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What'd you think?
Incredible. I'm yet to get back out there in my vehicle, so I did that with my best mate, his old man, who was sort of a bit of an inspiration in the four-wheel driving scene for us. He's the one that got us really into that. So amazing. That was about three weeks on the road.
Yeah, beautiful.
Incredible.
I've spent a lot of time up in the Flinders and absolutely love it up there. Just that whole, reddy colour and like just the bush, the terrain, the different types of, landscapes out there, all the different types of hills. You got your like razorback ridges and, it's incredible. If you haven't been there, go check out Flinders.
Check it out. The thing with Australia is you can get a taste of everything in this country, and that's one of the best things about it. You don't, a lot of people I think take for granted what we've actually got in our backyard. And when you sort of look at it, you can do every terrain you want. You want desert, you've got desert. You want snowfields, you've got snowfields. You want some intense bush, you've got it. We've got it all.
Oh, we awesome. Do. We've got every single terrain. Across the planet, we've got every single terrain, which is just awesome. From swamps to snow to beach to the center of Australia, the Simpson. Absolutely just incredible.
It's insane. It's insane. I think people don't realize that.
Very, very lucky. Moving on. What's your favorite thing to cook on a full drive trip? You've just been full driving all day. You get back to camp. You get the crock pot out or the fry pan out on the fire. What are you chucking on to cook up for everyone?
I absolutely love making loaded spuds in the camp oven. Yeah, I absolutely love it. So what we'll normally do, I'll grab like a couple of Coles chickens and I'll shred those up, chuck them in some Glad wrap bags. And then I'll normally grab like one of those Coles briskets or something like that. And we'll chuck that in the camp oven straight on the coals. And then right around that, grab your spuds, foil them up, stab them open, chuck some butter in there, wrap them in foil and just chuck them in the hot coals around the campfire. And with that brisket cooking, you'll be able to smell when it's ready. So we always just go off smelling the cast iron pots. If you can smell it, it's ready to go. And then, we'll load those up. So cut up your potatoes, your spuds and everything like that. Jam some brisket in it. Chuck some chicken on top, bit of sour cream. That is one of my all-time basic campfire meals. I love it. I could eat it every time out there.
Yeah, spuds in the campfire wrapped in alfoil. That's was a go-to dish growing up. You know, like living on a little bit of property, you'd do your burn off bonfire every year, and it's spuds in the campfire, and then just whether it's loaded spuds like you had, salt and pepper, chuck some oil in there, make sure you stab lots of holes in there, and just absolutely incredible.
No, you can't beat it. Honestly, that's one of those meals that I absolutely adore when I'm out camping.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, how do you see the public views on full driving and full drivers?
The public view, it's probably a little bit like hunting from what you've said. It's not the best at the moment. It's not the best at the moment. And I think that's because from the outside looking in, it's pretty easy to get typecast into something that we're not. But, the public, they're not seeing all the good things four-wheel drivers do. They don't see how much we actually respect the bush and do clean it up while we're out there. They don't understand, and I can say this from a point, training with the CFA, but they don't see that four-wheel drivers using these fire trails, we actually maintain those fire trails for them. So, without four-wheel drivers, these trails, they do get overgrown. With four-wheel drivers out there, we do groom these trails. But all the public will really see, and I don't blame them for it, it's because they're not in the industry, is, when something bad happens, when there is a red flag moment from, a minority of people, that it makes the industry look quite bad.
Yeah.
And that image that people are getting is, four-wheel drivers tearing up beaches, over long weekends, four-wheel drivers driving like idiots, destroying the beach, or, tearing up tracks, ruining public campgrounds, stuff like that. That's what the public see. So it is a hard industry to be involved in, because people, do look at us poorly. But, that's sort of one of the things that we are trying to stamp out in the content that I make. And, that's probably similar for yourself, would you say, with hunting?
100%. Everything you just said then about the full drive community, you could change that into hunting and hunters, and it's exactly the same. So I get it on every level, which leads me on to the next question. How would you change the public views on full drivers and full driving?
I would really, try to let the public sort of see how passionate we are about the great outdoors. And I'll speak on this matter on behalf of bush culture, and I'll involve all parties. I'm not going to speak for hunters, but, I'll speak for the outdoors side of hunters, that, you're not going to find people that, care about conservation more than us people that use the bush. The bush is that's our happy place. That's our escape from reality. That's our therapy. All right. I always say that the bush is 100% just my therapy. You are not going to find more people that care about the environment and want to protect it than all of us, because we use it. So we look at this on a personal level. So I would really just beg the public to just try to have a look at some of the benefits and the good things that our industry, and I'll speak of it as an industry as a whole, so for everyone that uses the great outdoors, how much positivity we do bring for it. Because I can walk down, I'll be honest, Zach, I can walk down the homestead that I live behind, right? And there is rubbish along this stretch of road for bloody kilometers, mate. People will dump it and dump it and dump it. So, the public will pinpoint hunters, four-wheel drivers, campers, and say, well, look what you're doing to the environment with all the rubbish that you're littering. And I'll sort of just sit back and go, let's not talk about just minorities here. Let's talk about the majority. We will always go by, the 2 in, 2 out method, where we'll take 2 bags into the bush with us, one for our rubbish and one for the rubbish that's been left behind. It's a mentality that a lot of us do out there.
Yep.
But then, what about the normal people in suburbia that are just dumping rubbish because they don't want to pay tip fees? Because I see that more than what I see out in the bush. And, I just beg the public to just have a look at that and sort of understand that, no one wants to protect this land more than people that use it, which is us.
Yeah, don't lock us out. It's as you guys are seeing with the national parks bill or whatever it is at the moment going through there. It's sweeping through the hunting, the fishing, the full driving, the camping communities, big petitions. If you don't know what it is, look it up. There's heaps and heaps. I think the review time's almost over, so it probably will be by the time this episode's out, but go look it up anyway. Look at who you're voting for, the two major parties, fuck them off.
That's exactly it. Just understand what the power of that vote actually means, and look at the bigger picture and understand, even if you're not super passionate about it, just think about it still, because
look at other options. Shooters, Fishers, Farmers Party, by the time this episode's out, you would have heard the episode that I've just done with Robert Borsak from Shooters, Fishers, Farmers Party. Look up your Shooters, Fishers, Farmers Party in your area. They're not just, it says it in the name, Shooters, Fishers, Farmers. It's covering a large aspects of people, but they're not just there for shooters, fishers, farmers. They're there for four drivers, for mountain bikers, for horse trail riders, for bushwalkers, for, everyone. So, they're fighting against a lot of these things that Marcus and I are fighting against, and, all the good things that we're promoting. Like you said, the 2 in, 2 out method. There's the amount of times you go out camping and you come back with far more rubbish than you've taken out with you because you're cleaning up after other people. But as you just said, driving down the highway, you look on the sides of the roads just in suburbia, the amount of trash that's on the side of the road. That's the everyday people that are going to get the shits up with you for leaving a can in a campsite. They're going to, you disgusting grub. But they're throwing smokes out the window. They're, throwing chewy rubbish.
Zach, it's crazy, mate. It's crazy. I'm starting to see bloody, like couches and bed frames and stuff just along this stretch of road because people don't want to pay tip fees. So, it's people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And you should have a good look at yourselves first before you start, blaming an entire group of people on just a minority.
Yeah, that's it, man. Like, you see the same thing here. I'm in the northern suburbs of South Australia here, and, we're on the verge of the Adelaide Hills and farmlands, and as soon as you turn onto a dirt road, it's couches, it's bed frames, it's chairs, it's oil drums, it's the bases of pot plants. Like, it's, like, I'm not talking about just a pot plant. I'm talking about, like, weed, like people just dumping shit on the side of the road.
Yeah.
They need to open up free tips and shit like that. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, nothing makes me more mad than seeing someone throw a cigarette butt out the window. You being in the CFA, we have the CFS here.
Oh,
nothing makes me mad, even if it's in the middle of winter. And I see that little amber bounce off the side of the road.
Yeah, flick off the road into your car. You're like, mate.
Nothing pisses me off more than that, But it seems like we're all on very common ground. We just need to, as you and I are doing right here, bridge that common ground and, work out how we all can come together to fight these bureaucrats who are just trying to lock us out of these natural places where we enjoy, leads me into my next question. Like I said to you at the start of the podcast, this is usually my favorite question because everyone answers it so differently, but everyone can relate to how everyone answers it. What is full driving and camping to you?
That is such an easy question for me. That is freedom. That is escape. That is, that is 100% my therapy. Getting out in the bush, I could have the worst 2-3 weeks at work, just absolutely being, pumped under pressure, overworked. As soon as I'm out in the bush, it's gone. It's gone, and it's so crazy trying to, break into the social media scene. And I've been absolutely loving every second of the journey that I've been on with it. but it's still nice just getting out to the bush and turning my phone off.
Yep.
And leaving it off. You know, I took a group of 10 people out camping and 4-wheel driving over King's birthday. And that ranged from beginners to, you know, pretty good wheelers and everything like that. But a lot of them were like, "Oh, are you not going to make a TikTok or anything?" I'm like, "Nope. I'm going to sit around this campfire. I'm going to drink. I'm going to stumble myself into my swag, and I'm going to have just the best sleep because I need this right now. Like, I really need this right now." Because you know, you're probably the same, but any spare second of the day, you're on your phone, you're on your computer, you're networking, you're editing, you're working. So for me, 4-wheel driving and camping, it is therapy. It is an escape from the hustle and bustle of the real world that just seems to, you know, keep getting worse and worse. I feel you can't turn on the bloody news these days, mate, without seeing some, you know, some more depressing shit of sort of the climate of Australia.
Yep.
And when I'm out in the bush, it's all gone.
100%.
That is all gone. And I'm just like, you know, I'm at peace out there. So that's how I'd sum up 4-wheel driving and camping for me. It's my therapy. That's my escape. That's my happy place.
Yeah, that's it, man. Like, again, like I said to you, everyone can relate to what you're saying there. I definitely can, you know, change everything. Well, with the full driving camping side of it, that's a part of hunting. So everything you're describing there, you know, we're doing plus adding like, you know, we're freaking idiots adding an extra step and an extra process onto that, you know, making it even harder for ourselves. But again, everything that you take out of that, we take out of that. Well, I personally take out of that, which is, just amazing, you know. It could be like, you know, you seem to be pretty up to date with movies and TV shows and stuff like that. You know, tomorrow when the world ends or whatever. The Australian one, they go out camping and Australia gets invaded. That could happen when you're out there and you wouldn't know, and you'd be happy, like not having to go back into the everyday hustle and bustle. You know, you're out there in the bush and you'd be thrilled with it. You know, you wouldn't care if the world ended.
We always think it when we're out in the bush. You know, you'll clock something in the sky and you're just like, "Oh, it's tomorrow when the war began." Like I live like right next door to an airfield, so every now and again you'll get a pretty spectacular show in the sky. But I always say to my fiance, I'm like, oh, get ready, like this is it. It's funny you say that because you're like, geez, something bad could happen right now and we would not know. Like
zombie
we
apocalypse, you know,
what you're looking for, you're waiting for it.
At least as a hunter, I'd be somewhat ready. I'd have some firearms or bows or whatever ready to go. You know, you poor full driver types, you know, you got nothing.
No, we just hightail it straight up to the highest, coldest point. You know, we might be all right here. The only issue is once the food supply runs down, I'd probably end up going to cannibalism pretty quickly. Sorry, mate. I can't get food for us. It's gonna have to be you.
Straight onto Long Pig.
Yeah.
For everyone that knows, another supernatural reference, but. If you know, you know.
That's exactly it.
But no, it's been good. It's been almost 2 hours on the recording side. We're at almost 2.5 hours all up. You know, it bloody flies, the podcast. You know, if people have
it does. It definitely does.
If people have enjoyed what they've heard, you know, you've already gone through it, but go through it again. Where can they find you on social media? Where can they find Bush Culture? And name of the podcast to look out for.
Yeah, unreal. So you can find me on TikTok. That's Ozcamper. I've just started on Instagram. So if you want to be my 45th follower, that is Marcus Sutho, SUTHO 4x4. You can jump on, and if you want to get into 4-wheel driving, camping, or you just want an awesome group to come out with, you've got Bush Culture, 4x4 camping and fishing. That's my Facebook page. We've just hit 1,700 members, and we do trips every month to every 2 months, sort of dependent on how life's going at the moment. So feel free to jump in there. I run a pretty tight ship where the one rule that I've got with that is just respect other members in that group. That's all there is to it.
Yep.
You know, so we're all there for the same reasons. And if you are hearing this, jump on YouTube and check out the Thunder Down Under podcast. Me and my absolute weapon of a friend Sienna have started that, so we've embarked on that journey, and we're really excited to get the first episode out for that one.
Oh, awesome, man! I can't wait to hear it. You do your lives here and there, and I've jumped in, said g'day. So if you're on TikTok, make sure you give him a follow and jump in, and you're always having a good conversation on your lives. So yeah, I definitely can't wait for the podcast. It'll be definitely added to my subscription list there. Hopefully we work out how to get you onto Spotify, as we spoke about at the start, rather than just YouTube.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I'm pretty excited to pick your brain there and get some advice, get some tips.
And then, let's get you out on the hunting side of things too, mate. Let's incorporate this all together and, start getting your whole the whole bush culture crew out there hunting, and your whole Facebook crew. The more the better, and we can all be here to protect these wild places that we all love to enjoy. Even if they don't want to get into hunting, just get out there and battle for it, protect it.
That's exactly it. And look, if there is anyone from my sort of side of the community listening to the podcast, make sure you follow Zach. He's an absolute legend, completely encapsulates the belief of bush culture and what we're all about, legends. So follow him on TikTok as Aussie Arrow. Follow the podcast, because I'll be listening to every other episode from this point on, because the way that you've narrated this and the way that you speak, Zach, is absolutely awesome. And I can just hear the passion, mate, in your voice. So this was an absolute blast, mate. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. This was great.
No, all good, man. Thank you for coming on. And yeah, it's been an absolute blast. It's definitely clicked along well, if it wasn't a work night, we definitely could keep going for a lot longer, I reckon.
100%, we would. It'd be one of those 5-hour bangers.
Oh, easily.
We'd still be on the conspiracy theory side of things about Bigfoot.
we'll need to catch up in Vic around a campfire. I'll bring the mobile podcast recorder out, and we can kick up on those campfire stories and see what trails we can go down.
That's one the community will love to hear. So we'll make that happen.
Easy, Marcus. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. And I appreciate it, and look forward to your podcast. Look forward to seeing what you do with bush culture, and look forward to seeing what content you bring us in the future.
Cheers for that, Zach. Appreciate it, mate.
Easy, mate. Enjoy.
Catch up.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Hunting Connection Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable insights into the world of hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. To stay connected with us and never miss out on an update, please be sure to follow us on social media, all at Hunting Connection Podcast. We appreciate your support and would love for you to share the podcast with your friends and family. Don't forget to tag us in your hunting photos on social media and let us know about your experiences. Your feedback is invaluable to us, so please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Together, we continue growing and delivering more captivating episodes for all hunting enthusiasts. Stay connected, stay informed, and keep pursuing your passion for the hunt. Until next time, happy hunting.